Hello, this is Stephen Dupree of NowEnergetics.com, based on YUEN Method. And today we're back in the car, driving to my mom's in Western Mass, and I was thinking about some topics we might talk about. And what kind of came up is the oneness versus separateness sort of topic. So people always talk about being one and so on. Let me turn the heat down a little bit here. And oneness is a basic principle weakens a lot of people, and not for the reasons you'd think. The people that talk about oneness and that in the movement, they're the non-duals and so on. Some of them have the most non-neutral energy with oneness, and not, and, again, it's not what you'd think. They want to be one, but they don't want to be one with people that don't want to be one. So they're neutral about people that agree with them, but if you don't want to be one with them, they have an issue with that. So that's always kind of an interesting, kind of funny thing with the oneness kind of brigade. But people are entitled to believe what they want to believe and practice what they want to practice. But in terms of neutrality, you want the neutrality of being one and also of not being one. And many times we want to really make sure that we're disconnected from the collective. That's a real source of symptoms for a lot of people, is that, especially psychic energy, people that are empathic, they pick up a lot of energy from the collective. So that notion of oneness, of collectiveness, that is sort of part of their energy, actually works against them in many cases, and works against most people, I would say. So we want to be able to separate as well. We want to be one. It's another neutrality, okay? It's another duality and duality in the sense of, two extremes, the oneness and the separateness. We want those to be even. We want to be able to separate from the collective. And, if you're an empathic person, you want to have both of those experiences. You don't want to just avoid one or the other, or say that, you want to disconnect from one or the other. You want to experience both of those types of situations, oneness and separateness, equally, so that you can choose one or the other, so you don't have to absorb other people's energy. So that's an important sort of neutrality concept, is you always want to be painting out the most widest array of experiences where you have the same energy, so you don't get stuck on any one thing. That's the whole point of that. So, and when we talk about dualities in general, we talk about sort of the duality movement, the non-duality movement. So there's a lot of folks that are into non-duality, non-judgment, non-attachment, that sort of thing. And it's important to distinguish, because neutrality is none of those things. Because when you're looking at neutrality, you're looking not at just the extremes, although we always paint the extremes, but we're looking at all the experiences between the extremes. Those just happen to be two ends of the string that we use, to stretch as far as in both directions as possible. But we're really talking about the infinite experiences in between those two extremes as well. So it's not really a duality. It's more it's much more wider than that. It's trillions and an infinite number of experiences between those two things. As an example, if you paint out a particular set of extremes. And when we talk about duality and non-judgment and non-attachment, it's the same type of thing. You want to be neutral to both of those different extremes of all those three things. You want to be able to be attached and not attached, to be judgmental and not judgmental, and be oneness or separate. That's the duality, right? Non-duality. You want to be able to be both or neither, or anything in between. That's what true neutrality is about, that. And the judgment, people get all hung up on the word itself because of the English language and what it means. There's an energetic charge to it. But what it really means is, when you look at even energy, even trying to figure out what some particular weakness that you may have is, you're always judging two things. So one of the things that I have in the Perception Blocks article is the discernment triad. And in the discernment triad, you have compare, accept, and reject. because you have to judge things. You know, if your energy is going weak to something, you need to be able to judge whether it's going weak. So you have to have a measuring tool, and you have to be able to judge things. So you can't have an issue with judging. You can't have an issue, you know, you can't be in a non-judgment belief system in order to judge energy or to discern the difference between two things. So discernment of the accept, reject, compare triad, that's part of how you find a weakness, right? When you think of the basic steps of, you know, how do you find a weakness, the first thing you have to do is be able to judge two things, and you have to accept one and you have to reject the other. So you have to be able to do those three things. You have to compare two things, and people are sometimes weak to comparison, or they're weak to accepting things, or they're weak to rejecting things. You have to be able to do all those things strongly in that triad to be able to actually find a weakness before you even strengthen it. You have to find it. And a lot of folks that look at this energy work, YUEN Method or neutrality work, they're basically stopped right at the door because they have some weakness to the very basic elements of judging two things, you know, of comparing two things is another way to say it. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get very far, and you're going to go on to some other modality or something. But really, regardless of how you check energy and what modality you use, you're going to have to be able to compare things, and you can't have any weakness to comparison. So those are some of the very basic things that come up in sessions with folks, and they're so abstract that, you know, most energetic modalities would never even think to look at that, you know. And that's where Dr. YUEN will sometimes say, it's so simple, you missed it. So people that are just like, oh, I have no idea what you guys are talking about, it's so basic, the abstract of discernment of comparing two things and accepting one, which is the weakness, and throwing out everything else that's strong is the rejection part. Compare, accept, reject. And being able to be strong to all of those things with no blocks is where you're going to have the most clear perception to be actually be able to do this work and make improvements in yourself and other people. So that's a very important concept, and it's one that I've written several articles about. And if you go on my YouTube channel, Now Energetics TV, based on YUEN Method, you'll see that there's some articles related to just discernment and finding strong and weak and so on. But this very basic notion, before you ever find a weakness, you've got to be able to compare two things. And it's such a basic abstract thing that people miss because it's so simple. It's kindergarten simple, as Dr. YUEN would say. So I just wanted to have a little discussion about that. That's a real basic element, and it's probably going to be in the instructional series that I put on the YouTube channel. It's really important to get that straight in your energy and clear anything related to the discernment, the compare, accept, reject triad, to be able to even do this work in a very, you know, to have the clearest insight to do this kind of work. So I hope that's been helpful to some people, because I think a lot of folks that I have sessions with, or I try to train or teach, it's sometimes a stumbling block to their ability to learn and use their insight. So it's a really basic element. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching my channel, and please like, subscribe, and share my video. And you can ring the bell for notifications. I try to put up videos a couple times a week. We'll see how I can maintain that. So thank you very much for watching.